we as entrepreneurs, people don't understand that we carry a burden. It's a burden, but it's a burden that we should carry delightfully, willingly, because that burden will benefit the generations to come if we let it. So,
welcome to the Maverick Entrepreneur Podcast, where business success meets personal purpose. Here we empower entrepreneurs to strike that perfect balance between massive growth and unwavering values. Dive deep into strategies, inspirations, and stories that ensure you set your foundation in faith and don't compromise your family on your ascent to the top. Awesome, Mr. Anthony Trimino. Thank you for being here today.
thank you for having me.
Hey, I'm honored, man. I was thinking the other day, I want to cut some podcasts. I want it not to be fluff. Who inspires me? Because, I just realized lately, I haven't been that inspired. My pastor inspires me. If I need a laugh or I need a good word or I need to be encouraged in my spirit, I could always podcast or call my pastor. And I was thinking in business, who lately has inspired me? Because I felt, I've been to a couple events lately and some great speakers, got some nuggets. Who out in the faith-based business world is doing it that I can relate to? There's people that are doing it.
Sure.
And you were that guy. And so I appreciate you willing to come have a conversation,
Of course,
with me and with everybody that's watching this. And, one of the biggest goals is to move, touch, and inspire people that want to build something that is going to leave a legacy, or it's just not going to be about them. And when I see your kids, when I see your wife, when I see all that you're doing, you're like one of the only people that is doing more than me and balling at the next level. So those are two things that inspire me, because a lot of people, they've done stuff, but now they're resting on their laurels. You're doing stuff, still crushing it, still inspiring your kids, and your kids want to be like you. And I was like, I wonder if my kids want to be like me. So today, I want to just have a conversation that can light a fuse. It's going to light a fuse in me. They say get around people that inspire you and something gets reignited on the inside. So I try to do that. And I'm figuring, well, if I'm going to do it for myself, I don't want to be selfish. We might as well do it for everybody.
absolutely.
And so I would love to start us off, because maybe a lot of people don't know you, but they're about to find out. And what I think where I want to start is not where you're at, but what built the man, Anthony Trimino. And just so you guys all know, this is somebody we met just because he was running for governor in California. I like being in politics. I love getting dirty. And he was making a run for it, but I didn't listen to everything that was being said. I went and looked at the man behind the man. And what I saw was a bunch of a wife that admired, she looked up to her husband. I looked at kids that were saying things about their dad that I haven't heard many kids say about their dad. A daughter that, I could tell, I feel bad for her. I mean, there's got a high standard. Some dude is, and she's not going to lower the bar. So somebody out there, you better raise the bar if you want to date a Trimino daughter. But
Very true.
Very true.
Very true.
But I have a daughter and two kids. I'm like, wow, I wonder one day when they're adults what they'll be saying about it. Because I remember I didn't hang out with my dad at a certain age. I was hanging out with my friends.
Nor did I.
But your kids rather hang out with their dad. So a lot of little things that inspired me to get to this place where I've got to see you in business, but I didn't know you when you weren't successful. I've only known a passionate entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur that lives by morals, a code of ethics, puts God first. The things that I have aspired to, which I see a lot of business people, they say one thing, but I look behind the curtain. It's not that way. I've been to Christian masterminds where, after the masterminds open, they're like, yeah, let's go down to the strip joint. I'm like, whoa, I thought I was a part of a Christian. It's like, bro, what kind? No, it's a business mastermind. So I've just been around so many disingenuine believers that when I had my guard up just watching, like, oh man, I'm about to be let down. But now that I look behind the curtain, you're the real deal Holyfield, and why I want to bring on real people, because I have a lot of real people in my life. I keep that circle tight. I wish it was bigger, but guess what? There's not a lot of big people out there that live what they say, especially in the business Christian marketplace world.
100%.
But that's why we're having this conversation, is because we want to, I want them to know who you were, how you got to where you are, what you own, what you do. Let people see behind the curtain, because now you are on this other side of success in business and haven't lost your faith, haven't lost your marriage, and your kids still respect you. Which is what gets me so fired up, which is there's a blueprint that you've actually followed, which I want to figure out what this blueprint is and expose this blueprint so we could help a bunch of other
100%.
dads out there. Because here's the thing, I have a bunch of young entrepreneurs that want to make money, and I keep trying to tell them, bro, don't just make money.
Yeah.
You know, I want you to learn the blueprint, and I will bring people on that it's just not me. I'm not a unicorn, that can have success, that can have family, that can have kids that love them, and expose the blueprint. You know, if I tell my kids one thing, they might listen, but when I bring someone else to tell my kid, they're like, okay, let's do it. You know, so.
It's funny how that works sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just kick it off, and you go where you want, and I'm going to ask you questions along the way that can help unlock some other people that they can believe in it. Because here's the truth. So many people have hired coaches, and then once they get around that person are disappointed. So many people have been a part of businesses that once they see behind the business, like, oh yeah, you're right. I didn't ask. It did make $10 million, but it cost them 10.1 to run.
Yeah.
You know, they're broke making 10 million a year. You know, you've been around it. And so we're in the world of disinformation and distrust. So even people watching this are going to be like, oh yeah, that Hubbard guy, or oh, that Trimino guy, oh yeah. Who does he think he is running for governor? You know, it doesn't really matter the filter. It's just because they've been so burned and so hurt, but they got to believe that they can have it all. They can have faith, love Jesus and not be poor. They can be successful in business and not be soft. I love this new shirt I saw. It says, "Save, not soft." And I think that's how we can think in business or in life. So wherever you want to start.
We were actually just talking about how you can achieve worldly wealth without being eternally bankrupt, right? That is a concept I'm so hot on right now.
Wow.
It's kind of, it was.
What's that mean to you then, since you're so hot on it?
It kind of goes back to all the counterfeits that are out there right now in the world today, right? Social media counterfeits, people that are on social media have millions of followers who talk about building businesses, success, wealth. They drive the cars, they fly the planes, and yet they're counterfeit. They're broken. They have no eternal wealth. In fact, I would argue that a lot of their secular wealth is fake too. So it's like, you know, you have majority of them.
You might be touching on some sacred cows.
Yeah,
bro.
there's some secular wealth that is absolutely, it's not real. It's you can't validate it. But so these guys, mostly guys, are out there preaching about prosperity, preaching about success, preaching about what it takes, the hustle, the grind, the money, the wealth, the cars, the this and that, and
You're not against that.
No, I'm not against.
I mean,
it at
I
all.
like your car.
I just think that they're counterfeit. They're broken. They're speaking from a perspective of, man, imagine if you put that much time, energy, and effort into your marriage. Imagine if you put that much time, energy, and effort into seeking God. If you put that time and energy into parenting, like then you know you'd have my respect. But a lot of these guys, they have the facade of success, right? They show you what they want you to see.
Or I will say in this one, there's one guy that a lot of my friends are following right now, and he would say he if he heard this, he'd be calling you up right now, telling you to F off.
Because he has secular wealth?
He's not a counterfeit. I'm not a counterfeit. But the truth is, I look at him, and I don't want my kid to hear him, because every other word's an F word.
100%.
Telling you what a weak wuss you are, tatted up, yoked. But my final straw, he's always showing his wife half naked.
Yeah.
I don't want my son to ever see that, because we have a different value system, obviously, which I'm not judging him for, but I'm just saying, you're never going to see my wife half naked.
Yeah.
Behind me. That's
Well,
my man.
you got to understand, like, you got to ask yourself why he wants to show you that, right? What is it?
How honoring is
And then
that?
what is that? What does that train up the next generation, the 20, 21-year-old, 22-year-olds that are coming up and they're like, I want to be successful. I want to make an impact. So
I want a trophy. Why I have to
what's the
walk around?
blueprint, right? To have a wife like that not only that you feel the need to showcase, but she feels the need to allow you to showcase. Then you start to look at like, there's two broken people at that point, right? It's like, so I just, I think there are a lot of counterfeits out there, and I think you can have success without bankrupting your soul. And I think more people need the blueprint for that. And what that looks like is holistic wealth, right? Holistic wealth. That's, you have your marriage on lockdown, you have your business on lockdown, meaning not just lockdown. Your marriage is successful, thriving, and growing.
Hmm.
Your business is successful, thriving, and growing. And then, if you're a parent, those relationships are developing, not shrinking, right? And so those are all the metrics. Just like we would sit down and look and do a business analysis, and we'd look at, all the different factors contributing to our businesses, what the costs are. Are we flatlining this year? Are we growing? What's our trajectory? How much are we growing? Well, we need to take inventory of all areas of our life like that. How's my
Yeah.
marriage doing? Is it growing? I mean, is the return on that investment? Am I up 20% from last year? Like, what's the growth trajectory? My
Yeah.
kids, do I see them 20% more this year? Are we getting closer, stronger? Or am I bankrupting it? Am I on like borrowed time? In the next year at this rate, I won't see my kids anymore. I won't have my wife anymore. So I think there's just a more holistic approach to success than just singularly focused on like the car. The car is easy to get. The social success is easy to get, but and I'll tell you this too. Another thing, I've been quote unquote secularly successful for 24 years, right? I became a millionaire 23 years ago, right? Okay, so the key, and what I ask a lot of people when they follow these social entrepreneurs is like, can they hold it? Can they keep it?
Hmm.
Anybody can make $1 million bucks.
Hmm.
You want to grind for a year, you want to sacrifice.
Yeah.
I can teach anyone how to make $1 million bucks in a year.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Yeah.
That's not the hard part.
Yeah.
Can you keep it?
Can you keep it?
Can you keep doing it? Can you make 2 next year, 5 the year after? Can you keep growing it? That's the hard part. 99% of businesses fail in their first year.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard to start a business. It's not hard to make money. It's hard to keep a business.
Yep.
And so I think more people have to understand the importance and significance of, a lot of these people that are on social, they're like shooting stars. They were nowhere 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You didn't know their name 5 years.
Yeah.
You didn't know their name 2 years ago.
Yep.
Will you know their name 2 years from now?
Yep.
That's the question you got to ask. And most of these people, you won't.
Yeah, it's amazing too because success can mess with your mind,
Mhm.
and if you're not anchored to something, I watched one of my friends that I knew. He was a DJ, online DJ, and now he's massive. And the bigger he gets, the more his life goes to shambles because he's not anchored.
Yeah.
He doesn't have faith. He walked away from it for fame, did some things that compromised. But now I watch him. He's so messed up by 800,000 followers. I was like, really? 800,000 followers has got you to train wreck your life on anxiety medications.
Yeah,
doesn't know who he is anymore. And I love the guy, but he lost his true north. He lost his anchor, his purpose, and for fame.
We have in Christian culture, we have an identity crisis. And in this generation that exists today, this younger generation, which my kids all fit within the realm of, they have identity crises. They don't know who they are.
Yeah.
They don't know who they are, and they think that ultimately they're going to find that definition somewhere on social media, that someone's going to tell them, this is who you are, this is what you should be, or this is, and it's like, we need to get back to the basics. Like,
fundamentals.
the Bible tells us who we are. We know who we are.
Yeah.
We know who we are. We know who we're called to be, but we lose track. We forget about that. Or somehow we think that what that means is that we're intended to be martyrs our whole life. I can't tell you how many family members I have that have the martyr mentality, that, it's in my suffering that God is honored. And I truly believe God is honored in every way. Like, if you want to honor God, in your suffering, he will accept it.
Yeah.
But if you choose to honor him in your success and your abundance, he'll accept that too.
Oh, someone
And we
needs to
get to
hear
kind of
that.
decide that, right? And so there's so many people that just want to be martyrs, that believe like that, to be a good Christian means that you got to suffer. And I'll tell you this, being a Christian means you will suffer. But it doesn't mean that you have to be a martyr, and it doesn't
Mm.
mean that you have to suffer without and have lack to be a good Christian. In fact, the world needs more of us out there paving the way for the younger generation to see what is possible,
Yeah.
to aspire to be more. And that's what I try to do in my life. That's why every project that I take on, every new, I'm still trying. I've as much as I've accomplished in life, I have not let off the gas an inkling. In fact, I'm probably way more active now than when in the early years when I was starting, trying to start a company and manifest all my ideas. I was very active, but I'm probably way more active now, trying to challenge myself and my relationship with God, my faith, to see how far I can actually stretch it.
I'm getting nervous too. I'm gonna tell you because when you're running for governor, there's a lot of distractions. I was like, I think I can catch this guy. But now that you're not running for office, man, I just see you're doubling down, crushing it. It's like you hit another gear. So I'm going, I just got to get around this guy so I find my next gear. Because if I don't, you're gonna lap me. So it's just getting like,
When I came back from running, you got to imagine, it was about a year that I wasn't physically present in my business, right?
yeah,
And I had to stretch myself incredibly thin. When I came back after running, we had lost at least 5 or 6 major contracts, multiple millions of dollars that we had lost. And the office, the culture was in shambles. It was just very loose. I mean, the team was shutting down at 4 o'clock every day, playing foosball tournaments. Like, there was no pressure to like drive growth, right? It was chaos. When I came in, it took me 6 months just to stabilize. Like, 6 full months round the clock just to stabilize and then start the rebuild process. But during that time, it was a real challenge because I had to go back to my roots of when I started the company. Do you still have what it takes to rebuild? Do you have what it takes to actually put in the time, the sweat equity, the blood sweat? You're so used to now uh, having a machine. It runs. Can you still build something from scratch? And I honestly spent those 6 months plus about 4 months into the new year, uh, really challenging myself to do it. And honestly, not only do I still have it, I trumped, like, what I was able to do in those 9 months trumped probably what I did the first 5 years as a company. So
come on.
because you learn more, you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
more, you have more in your arsenal, right?
yeah.
And you take some shortcuts. But no, I went through it, that period of time. But I made sure that when I stabilized the company and then rebuilt it back up, I was like, I'm never going to be there again. And so I just went on a tear with regards to growth minded, focused, expansion, multiple like acquiring companies. It was just and that's the space I'm in right now. So right
Mm.
now it's about, for me, I've been diversifying, and my focus every time I either acquire a company or take equity stake in a company, my mentality is this: I want that thing to retire me. So if you think about what I built with Traffic, my agency, it's the gorilla in the room with regards to the things that I have going on. But every time I enter a new, like, there's this caviar opportunity, I'll probably be an owner in a caviar business. And the way I approach new business is, can I make an impact in this business? Does it inspire me? And can I build it up so that I can, and I'm competitive with myself. How can I build this company up so that it retires me before my gorilla does?
Mm.
And it's that challenge every time to be like, I want this next thing and so by doing that, I infuse energy and excitement and vigor into those new opportunities, and I'm able to build them at a more rapid tick. And so, yeah, I'm all about diversification right now.
Yeah, I can see that. So if you had to, you weren't always just woke up and successful, silver spoon. I mean, you weren't a trust fund
Yeah,
baby, right?
no.
Huh. So then if you could give
Forget the
advice,
spoon. That was more like eating with my hands.
yeah, exactly. But most
Yeah,
people don't know that. They
yeah,
look at Anthony Trimino, the successful guy that smokes cigars, you know what I mean? And we like our good cigars. But what is it that what do you think are some of the attributes that got you to success? What are some of the things
yeah.
that you did when you come in, you saw your company wasn't the culture, the DNA that you left it as, and then you came back in to step it back up? What are some tidbits of people watching, like, if you do these things, it will help you build momentum, or there's people that have been grinding, 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 and they're actually about to throw in the towel.
Yeah. Um, there are a couple things that I probably attribute to the building blocks of who I am today, right? My grandfather fled communist Cuba. That was a contributing factor. There are a lot of people today, minorities, who look at being a minority as a setback. I'm like, it's a joke. Like, that's a superpower. The fact that you have to overcome that people in your family have had to overcome those challenges only makes you stronger. So these excuses that a lot of minorities have, that like, well, because I'm a minority, it's more challenging, it's more, no, that's happening in your head. In fact, you inherently have inside of you the some tenacity that a lot of other people don't have. So the fact that my grandfather came to the United States and didn't want to depend on the government and wanted to become an entrepreneur and wanted to be self-sufficient, that kind of was one of the building blocks. I saw a man who came here and could have taken advantage of our government and decided no, that he wanted to stand on his own 2 feet, and he was proud to be an American, and he was proud to contribute, and he was going to build something on his own. So that was a contributing factor. Um, when Jen and I, my wife, were early on in our relationship,
How long you
and
been married?
we're going on 28 years.
28 years. How many kids?
Five. Yeah. Four biological, one adopted. We were foster care parents for a season. Love kids, love pouring into kids and the youth. Um, when we were young, starting off in our relationship, God was on the fringe. God was part of our life. And when we lost our first son, long story, we lost him for a period of time. He's alive and well and strong and handsome, but we
Single?
and single, ready to mingle.
Ready to mingle.
When we lost him, we were shook by an experience we had with him, and that incident forced us to move God from the fringe to the center, and he became not just a part of our life, but the focal point of our life. That encounter and that shift and that decision to put God at the center of everything is also a contributing factor, because that has been my guiding light, my North Star, my entire life. So that has helped center me, so that no matter what's happening, and as an entrepreneur, like, you can't predict what's going to happen.
Nope.
It's constant uncertainty. It shifts in seasons, and sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's rough, sometimes you're making money, sometimes you're not. You get discouraged. Look, if you're not anchored in truth, if you're not anchored in a clear understanding of who you are and what you're called to do, then you're just going to be tossed with the current, and eventually you're going to drown. So that was a contributing aspect as well. My dad taught me at a young age, when I was maybe around 12 years old. He used to take me down to Newport Beach, sometimes Beverly Hills, and he would park the car, we'd get out, and we'd go stand in front of these big, beautiful houses. And he'd say, many occasions, he'd say to me, pick one. I'd be like, all right, that one. He's like, why can't that be yours one day? Mm,
Come on, a dad with
and my
inspiration.
dad, and he could never afford that at the time. He was struggling, right? But he wanted to instill in me the belief, right,
Vision.
that if it exists, it can exist for you. If it exists, you can have it. If somebody else has achieved it,
Yeah.
well, then so can you.
Yeah.
So what he wanted to do is instill in me a belief that anything is possible. So at 12 years old, I adopted the philosophy that if it exists for me too.
Mm.
And so that was a contributing factor. So as I navigate, my life today, and I see things, or I'm exposed to things, and it's like I see new places, like, Dubai, and all these beautiful places on earth, and all these different things, or whether it's a car, whether it's a this, or whether it's just whatever. I don't. I look at it and say, well, if it exists, then it exists for me too. So uh, I want it. I
There's
want to
no
experience
poverty
it.
mentality in
No
that
poverty
thinking.
at all. And then so that was part of it. And another aspect, and probably one of the most significant ones too, is I never a plan B. I never have a plan B, ever. Never, ever, ever do I allow myself to create a contingency plan for anything I fix my eyes on.
Mm,
And the minute you introduce the concept of a plan B, you have infiltrated the idea of your success, and you've planted in it a seed of destruction that will ultimately, almost inevitably, direct you into
plan
the
B.
second
Yeah.
option. And so those
Wow.
those factors, but at the end of the day, just kind of to compare and contrast where I am today, um, I think the world would define me as successful. I still feel like I'm a student of life, and I'm still learning and growing. But I value and appreciate the things I have now, because it wasn't always that way. And it's important for people listening to understand that there was a time, right, where my wife and I were in an apartment, and we had a cardboard box for a coffee table. We had a patio set for a dining table. We had a broken refrigerator, and we were eating hamburger helper without the meat. I mean, ground beef is like $7, $8, but we couldn't afford it. So we were eating boxed noodles without the meat because we couldn't afford that.
And she still said yes, and you didn't have millions?
Oh, she still said yes. When I was dating my wife, I met my wife the day after they repoed my Jeep Wrangler. So I met her driving my dad's Astro van, like beat up old family Astro van. Yeah, she said yes in my worst of times, and
That's a
that's a
word.
whole nother segment.
That's another segment
Yeah,
we got to talk
talking
about.
about, yeah,
Bro, I'm
that's
just seeing too
for
many guys.
sure.
You know what they tell me? Yeah, until I make my first million, I'm not getting married. Bro, then what happens when you lose it?
Yeah.
I'm not going to lose it. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
we're building up on some fault. Why don't you marry your girl when you got nothing and build a war chest together?
100%. 100%.
I look at that. I mean, it's my wife and I. I look at you and your wife. Like, if we lost it, well, we had nothing before.
100%.
We'll build it again.
Exactly.
But you go live this thing, and you're the man. And you roll up with your Rolls Royce, and then something by God happens. You never know.
I almost, if things had happened differently, I almost, the type of woman I would have married had she met me with my car and my business is probably completely opposite of the spectrum from the one that I married, who was riding around with me in a broken pickup truck that didn't start half the time, eating boxed noodles with no meat. Like, it says a lot about character. I find that interesting. A lot of people say that, I'll find the one, or I'll get married after I find success, or we'll have kids after we make money.
Yeah.
Like, it's just such a flawed concept for me. It's like, those are the people that are the aim, 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 shoot. And by the time you do that, dude, I have a wall full of things I've hunted and
Yeah.
killed already. You're
Exactly.
still aiming. I'm like skinning at that
Yeah.
point. It's about shoot, adjust, shoot, adjust, shoot, adjust. This whole, like, preparation, got to have things right. Like, being an entrepreneur, especially today, when I started the company 24 years ago, everybody was about, where's your business plan? Where's your, like, detailed? My dad used to tell me, I want like a binder. I want a 100-page detailed business plan. Back then that was the way you started companies. Today, you can't predict where
No.
technology is going, where the market's going, where human interest is going, how they consume information.
I had an AI bot of me call me the other day. Someone was messing with me. It was me, my voice talking to me, answering my
Really?
questions.
Yeah.
And it was my buddy that goes, dude, I built you an AI bot. I'm like, okay, bro, this is getting way too trippy.
Yeah, and so you think about it, it's like, if you don't, if you're not flexible enough to, like, take some chances, take some risks, and just do things when you're not fully prepared and ready,
Yeah.
you're not going to succeed today.
My dad told me back in the day, done beats perfect.
Yeah,
And that I've
100%.
held on to that. I've had lots of stuff. Half the stuff that I have out there, it's not perfect, but I got it done and it's made me money.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
And you pivot along the way. Like you go, I have a lot of friends with the martyr mentality that are like, you know, if God wants me to be successful,
oh gosh.
if God wants me to have a house, to give it to me. If God wants me to be successful, he'll deliver it. If God wants me to have money, he'll drop it off on my doorstep. I'm like, God cannot steer a car that's in park. You can't steer a car that's in park.
Mm.
You got to
What do
put the
they say
damn
to
thing in.
that?
You got to.
At least you got grace. You're still
I'll,
friends with them.
I'll put it to you like this. I'm like, I've had that conversation with some of them going on 24 years now, and they're in the same position they're in,
Well,
and
you
and
keep
they're
paying for their
struggling.
vacation.
True story.
I mean, maybe if you quit,
That's a true
maybe
story,
if you
actually.
keep inviting them, but quit paying for them.
Yeah,
I
and
will say that, I remember, we went to Vegas and we hadn't even met. It was like our wives got to meet. We
that
went to
crazy,
Vegas
right?
and we had a great dinner. And I remember I covered dinner that night and you were so fired up. You're like, how did that happen? But I could tell by the way when I met you, your personality, I'm like, this guy thinks he's going to beat me to the punch. And you just didn't know me. And I was like, I
Oh,
remember.
then you got to know me real good after that, because
That's
I don't
true.
think you've
Yeah, I
won
know.
I don't think
I
you've
know.
won
That's
since
true.
that time.
That is a true statement.
That is true.
I awoke in the giant, but
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, you have leveled that up 10x. But it was my first one. I was like, this guy, I'm sure takes care of all his friends. I'm going to make sure to my wife, so we're taking care of him. I called that restaurant. The manager's like, but then I did get nervous because I remember they came and handed you. I looked at that manager like someone's getting fired,
Yeah.
and he winked at me, and then I go, oh. Phew. But just to talk about your taste, you've introduced me to a couple exquisite items in my life that I didn't know about. And I remember we were at this place afterwards, and you're like, hey, let me get this one. If I order, let me get it. I've never forgot that because it was a level I've never thought about. It was with the Ultra.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I remember that. I took that home. I was like, he's experienced a level of things that weren't even in my sphere. But once they were in my sphere, and this is a business concept, you level up your thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came back from there leveling up to a world of thinking because of that. And I was curious. I went up to the waiter afterwards. I said, hey, let me see that tab. And when I looked at it, I was like, okay, check my ego. Glad I didn't let pride take over, because then
Yeah.
I'd have been, let's get back to the hustle. You know what I mean? That's a level I hadn't played at, but it came back, and what it did, it leveled up my thinking. Just like your experience with your boat. I'm a boat guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, here I have this boat on my vision board, and then I saw that you own it. And if you don't know what a Von Dutch is, you need to know if you're a boat guy. But I remember that leveled up the way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And how generous you are with it. My wife got in a situation, a daughter, they were late, blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh, I'll make it happen. Then you send them over to Catalina on your boat. My wife's like, I could never go to Catalina any other way now. And so it came back and made me level up. You're right. Why should my wife have to, you know what? I just need to think bigger.
Yeah.
Never thought about taking a Von Dutch to Catalina,
Yeah.
but now that we've been on it, how can you ever? It's like once you fly private, you don't want to go back to Southwest
100%.
Paddle Guards.
And again, it goes back to like what my dad taught me, right? Which is, so you had an idea of a boat, then you saw that a Van Dutch exists. Okay, so like if it exists, it exists for you too, right? You just got to figure out, like, it's already yours the minute you decide that it is.
That's right.
All you got to do is catch up to your thought. So once your actions catch up to your thoughts, that's when you get to, that's when you taste the fruit. But I sit there all day long and I envision all the things that I have. I can't tell, like, like, we can talk for hours about all the things I have in my head.
Yeah.
That my actions are just catching up to.
I love that.
But there was an important thing you said about like in your vicinity, you were talking about that. It's a principle that I've been teaching my kids, especially my oldest son, which is the concept of close proximity, and what you allow in close proximity to you, and what you allow in your orbit. And we need to be very mindful and particular
Yep.
about who and what we allow in our orbit.
So true.
Because if you have the right thing in your orbit, right, you have something of equal mass in your orbit, it creates a beautiful harmony. And there's a push pull thing that happens. And so you have the right people and the right things in your orbit, there's a harmony to that existence, and there is a give and take that happens. But then all of a sudden, you put a meteor into your orbit, and that thing is just off axis. That thing will circle you and circle you. Inevitably, it's going to crash into you and
Yep.
it'll destroy you. So I've been talking to them about the importance of being very careful about who you allow in your orbit, removing meteors from your, and meteors could be things that are like addictions. It could be bad influences. It could be music, the things you're watching, the things you're looking at, the things you're listening to, or they can be people. And then the things that you should have in your orbit are good people, good masses, things that create a harmony in your life, so that it's not destructive. But it's so important. And so when, like you said, when you allowed me in your orbit, I allowed you into my orbit, and now we're circling. There are things, even if they're not equal mass, there are things constantly that I'm inspired by, that you say, that you do, the way people admire you and respect you. Like, that's encouraging for me too. We talked about, your a brownie story that you told. I use that twice a week. So there's something that, like, you were able to give me something, and I've been able to use and capitalize on, and affect people in my orbit. And so hopefully I've been able to do that for you too. And being in your orbit, hopefully there's good and there's quality and there's things that you're getting from it too, and that you're growing from. But it's so critically important to be mindful of what we allow in our orbit. And I'm in a season right now where I'm kicking out meters left and right,
Yeah.
and getting rid of these things that could eventually collide and cause damage. And so I'm trying to weed all that out right now and keep an incredible harmony of these things that are orbiting me and in close proximity to me, that either inspire me, encourage me, or that I can inspire and encourage. And I think everybody needs to take an inventory of, like, what's in close proximity to you, who and
so
what,
true.
and what are you allowing in your orbit, and you better figure it out quick before that thing collides.
Yeah, it was funny. The other day, I got this bracelet. It's a magnetic bracelet, but magnets have massive healing properties. And it was funny. I listened to this guy, and he knew a lot about it. And I said, "Let me try it out." As soon as I put it on, I go, Holy Spirit spoke to me and says, "You're gonna have people in your life that have healing properties, or you're gonna put things in your life that will drain you." And I didn't buy this because it was, magnetic healing. I bought it as a reminder that I got to make sure that I'm putting magnetism of people that I wanted to be attracted to help me, that inspire me with my marriage, that inspire me with raising my kids, that are constantly around me, making me better. And it was so funny. I've always known that, thought that, but it wasn't until that magnet, I put it on my wrist. I'm like, I ain't taking that off. That was my anchor, if you will,
Yeah.
to make sure, well, if it's good enough for my healing circumference, this has to be on you to affect you.
Yeah.
So that means what's ever closest to you, that proximity. My dad taught me back in the day, who's in your room matters.
Yeah.
And you can't get people out of your room that are already in there. And he goes, but when you go to anything VIP, they have a list. And guess what? If you're getting in, guess what your name needs to be on?
Yeah.
That list.
Yeah.
So what happens is you better start having a list of people you allow into your life. If not, you'll let anybody into your life. Anybody. If there's not a VIP list with the bouncer, anybody can get in there. You don't want anybody in your life. Show me your bouncer and show me your list.
Yeah.
And why are they on the list? And he goes, and then who's in your room is going to affect you the rest of your life. And so whenever my wife and I meet couples, it's not always easy. You might have synergy with somebody, but your wife's like, their wife, or she might have synergy with someone and you're not really into it.
Yeah.
But when you both find that couple that is that magnet that brings healing and inspiration, and if you're going to do big things, you got to be inspired.
100%. There's a business concept, right? Be slow to hire, quick to fire.
Hmm.
Uh, that applies to friendships too.
How can people change their mind when it comes to friendships?
How can they change their mind?
Well, I mean, there's
I
so
mean,
many people that
I've,
believe
I,
that in business, but then when it comes to their friends, what, they lower the bar,
I
or they
mean, I
go,
think it's more important in friendships than it is in business because, you know, if a bad employee, right, impacts your business, there's an impact, right? It may cost you a client, it may cost you some time and effort to rehire. But the impact of a friend or someone in your personal life that's connected to your family, the impact that person can make if you don't get rid of them quick is way more significant than an employee can have on your business. There could be long lasting effects of somebody that you allow in close proximity to your
mhm,
family. So I'd rather I'd be quicker to get rid of the people in your personal life that shouldn't be there even faster than I would in business, and we're pretty quick in business to do that.
wow. How you
But
teach that to your boys?
they've seen me do it.
Mm,
You know, they'll ask me like, "I haven't seen you talk to so and so lately. I haven't seen you hang around so and so lately." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's intentional." I was
mm,
like, "There's a couple things. Number one, either we don't align, and therefore, why am I going to spend time in a room with somebody who is, I'm not going to benefit from. They're not going to if we're not aligned on core values, we don't even see the world the same.
yeah,
So what are we going to talk about? What are we going
yeah,
to talk about? We don't
yeah.
see the world the same.
It's
So
going to slow you
it's
down.
going to slow you down. And then there's even a level beyond that because there are people that I do share values with, but being in the room is just an energy suck. It's like I don't always want to be the one in the room that is having to pull people forward. I
Mm,
also want to be in the room. I want to chase. I
yeah,
think we all need rabbits. We
yeah.
all need rabbits to chase. We all need those people
I got plenty on my property.
that
I don't know. I
yeah.
don't know if I could totally buy in. I got PTSD with rabbits right now.
We need people
Yeah,
as rabbits
yeah,
and things as rabbits to chase that will always, you know, there always needs to be somebody who has maybe achieved or accomplished more in an area of life that we admire and
do you got
appreciate.
that?
Yeah, I'm actually actively on the hunt right now for more of that. As
Mm,
I'm making room in my life and removing some people that I think they just don't add value. Um, it's making space, and I'm really my circle's tight. You say you have a tight circle, you probably still have 10x the amount of people in your circles than I do. I'm very, very, very tight, and it's intentional. I like my relationships to be meaningful, and so I'm looking for more rabbits in other areas to chase, for sure. But uh, but again, it's also I'm looking for those rabbits that understand the idea of holistic wealth, which
yeah.
is eternal wealth, family wealth, business wealth. That's harder. It's
So
harder to find.
how do you handle? You've been successful in the business world. You have your kids that are you're inspired by, that are inspired by you. You have a daughter.
Yeah.
She's successful in the horse world. How are you going to help her pick her man?
That one is easier. It may seem like a hard concept. Her brothers and I are going to emulate the type of man that she should be looking for. There was a saying years ago I stumbled across, be the man that you would want your daughter to marry.
Mm,
And so I'm constantly thinking about how we, the men around her, could emulate the character traits that she should look for. And it's funny, we had this conversation last night. We were at the dinner table, and she is confident, and she is just like A-type personality, and she's just, she's full of life. And I said to her, I said, you're gonna have problems. She's like, with what? I was like, finding a guy that's gonna be able to occupy your space
yeah,
because it's awesome. Like you're just on fire, and it's gonna be difficult. You're either gonna have to find someone that is like just like you and will allow that, or like he's gonna be, softer. And I was like, please don't bring a soft guy. She's like, Dad, do you think I would marry a soft guy? She's like, of course not. I'm not gonna marry a soft guy. But the whole thing is that I think the way that I do that with my daughter is we as the men around her have to set the bar so high that she understands what to look for, right?
Yeah.
And I think we have all, I don't know, I hope I have done that job, but our brothers are doing a pretty amazing job of showing what young men at that age
Yeah.
should look like.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking physically, although they're all handsome. I'm talking like, what should they look like? You know, if you
How
look
should
at
they
my
be? Yeah.
boys, 99% of their social time is spent with family,
Yeah.
us. If you look at what are they in times of success or hardship, where do they go? They go to God and they go to us. How do they conduct themselves? How do they carry themselves? What are their ambitions? What are their goals? I think we've done a good job of creating at least a blueprint for what that guy should look like. Hopefully she follows it.
You know what? We could go for hours. I know we got to land this plane, but if they're, I know you got some big things on the horizon that we're going to be aiming towards. Seminars you're putting on, masterminds you're putting a lot together. So we'll make sure to get you all those information about what the Trimino family is doing, especially for the business world. I think that there's a lot of people out there that that have to find truth in a noisy world. And we just got to make sure your voice is really loud. I see the fruit, not only in business, not only your faith, which is important, but also raising kids. And I know a lot of, my tribe and my circles of influence in church, look up and need to find people that inspire them, not in just one category. So many people are one category strong. Can we be 9 categories strong? Can we be all categories strong? And it is possible, but too many people are eating from the fruit of the wrong tree and being misled. So I appreciate you being on here today.
Appreciate you
If
and
you
all
could
you're
leave,
doing.
come on, one tidbit for anybody. What's one thing that you want to leave? One nugget.
I think we all need to pray for, with expectancy, God's favor on our life. We all need it. And, people, as I run off to a meeting, sometimes someone in my office will say like, good luck. I'm like, I don't need luck. I need favor.
Yep.
Pray favor over me. And the concept behind favor, the interesting thing is favor is not for you. Favor is given to you so that you can then create things and do things that will bless and inspire others. So my word of encouragement is pray for favor. And when you receive it, understand the obligation that you have with that favor is to create something that will have an impact on way more than just your life. We're meant to take ground. We're meant to expand the kingdom. And in order to do that, we have to be willing to allow things and blessings to flow through us. Well, if we just contain them, if all the work and effort and success is just for us, then we're limited vessels, right?
Yep.
And what he wants is, he wants us to be willing vessels that are large, that he can pour into, that we can pour out of. And the more you're willing to pour out into family, into others, into culture, the more likely that he'll continue to fill you, that you may pour out. So I pray for favor every day, but I know that it's not just for me, and I know I have an obligation and a burden to carry. We as entrepreneurs, people don't understand that we carry a burden. It's a burden, but it's a burden that we should carry delightfully, willingly, because that burden will benefit the generations to come if we let it. So.
Come on, all through the Bible, God talks about blessing and favor. And I'll tell you that even the woman that said, I'm going to make you a cake and die, she was the widow that had nothing left. The prophet of the Lord said, go get some containers so God can fill them. And God filled up all those containers that she had. And if she would have had more, he would have filled more.
Yeah.
So just make sure you're putting the hand to her work was, he didn't say, let me give you a miracle. He said, go to work.
Yeah.
She had to go get the stuff. And so for us is go to work, do as much as you can, and God can fill it, bless it, overflow it.
100%.
So thank you for being here, man. I look forward to everything you're doing. And we look forward to an episode in the future. We're going to get this guy back because I know he is a wellspring of knowledge, information that can change your life. So thanks for tuning in today. Forward this thing out to everyone you know. They need to be moved, touched, and inspired to do bigger things in life, to think bigger, dream bigger, and be bigger. So God bless you guys. Have a great day. See you later.
I am a fighter. Got a dream.